Good morning, peace and blessings, everyone. This is your brother, Anson Osaka. As you all know, I'm running for Baltimore City Council in the 4th District, and I need your support. I'm calling on all my brothers and sisters who live in the 4th District to vote for me. The election is June 2nd. It's about a month away, and I need your support now more than ever. So right now, I need to raise funds for this campaign. This is the last month of the campaign of the primary, and I need your support. One of the things that I need to do is send out mass mailings. In order to do so, I need about $5,000 to send out an adequate number of flyers. So I'm calling on my brothers and sisters to donate to my campaign today. The link is in the description box to this live stream. You can donate by clicking the link and going to Act Blue and making your donation. And before I go any further, I have to thank every single person who has donated to my campaign. Regardless of the amount, I truly appreciate your support. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to get flyers done. I wouldn't have been able to get signs done and posters done without your support. Without your support, I wouldn't have been able to make calls to voters. I wouldn't have been able to canvass. I really appreciate those people who canvassed with me, who made calls with me. It's so many people. I can't thank you all enough. Your support means everything to me. And more importantly than meaning something to me, it means something to this city. This campaign is about a bold blueprint for a better Baltimore. That's what this campaign is about. I got into this race because I want to make a difference in my community. I see open air drug markets in my community. I see young men on the corners all day and night selling drugs. I see poor communities that have been neglected by the elected officials for far too long. Communities that aren't even visited by these elected officials until it's election time. Communities that have been ignored for far too long. Communities where there are abandoned buildings and on every other block in these communities. These communities are forgotten. These communities are forsaken. And if I'm elected, I will make those kind of communities my top priority. Many of these other people, these elected officials and candidates, they pander to the elites in the community. That is their focus. That's who they tap dance for. That's what their message is tailored around, placating elites. My campaign is about all of the people. My campaign is about ensuring that all people have equal opportunities in our community, regardless of what side of town they live on or what their zip code is or what their race is. That's what my campaign is about. I'm one of the few candidates who has openly addressed the racial disparities that exist in our community. One of the few that's openly addressed this. It makes no sense for us to live in a community where there are two cities. We need one Baltimore where everybody has equal opportunity to thrive and to be successful, where the kids in Penn Lucy and the kids in Woodburn McCabe had the same opportunities as the rich kids in Guilford, as the rich kids over there on the west side of York Road. They need to have the same opportunities. That's what this campaign is about. My campaign's primary goal is to end the senseless violence that is plaguing our community by addressing the root causes of the violence that's plaguing our community. And I need your support to make this happen. My campaign is about putting forth legislation that will help substantially reduce, if not end, this violence that's plaguing our community. That legislation would identify at-risk youth, would establish lines of communication with at-risk youth, and then provide at-risk youth with the life-saving services that they need in order to be successful in life. Life-saving services such as mentors. Many of us need guidance. There are many people, young people, that don't have guidance. They don't have positive role models. I would fund and support those programs that are already in place to help expand them and even create new programs for mentors and role models for our young people. In addition to that, we need to ensure that our children have a quality education by ensuring that the Kerwin Commission's recommendations are fully funded and implemented. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but we need to make sure that our young people have quality education. That will literally save lives. We need to make sure that our children are prepared for college. And this legislation would call for that. College preparation, it would call for college scholarships for needy young people that have great potential, that have, the potential to be anything, the potential to be great scientists, the potential to discover the cures to various diseases and viruses. That potential needs to be untapped, needs to be tapped. Right now it's untapped. A lot of this potential is untapped right now, and we need to tap into that potential by making sure that our young people have the education that they need, that they have the college preparation that they need, and that they have the money that they need to go to college. In addition to that, we need to build up vocational programs for the young people that may not be inclined to go to college, but they should be able to graduate from high school with the necessary skills to find employment or to create jobs of their own. My campaign would support entrepreneurial programs for our young people. Many of our young people have that natural entrepreneurial spirit. We see it in the so-called squeegee boys doing what they have to in order to make money and to survive. We see it even in the dope boys trying to make a living. If we could tap into that natural entrepreneurial spirit and direct it and channel it in a way that's productive and positive, we can make a difference in the city. If we can give our young people the resources that they need to go into business, we can make a difference. And that's one of the life-saving services that this campaign will be about, this proposed legislation will be about. In addition to that, the legislation would also fund those programs that have been successful in our community. Successful programs, like the programs in Cherry Hill in the city. In Cherry Hill, they were able to reduce the violence down to virtually 0 murders last year. And that was a tremendous accomplishment, given the fact that Cherry Hill was one of the most violent areas of the city. So we need to support things like that. Make sure that those types of programs get the funding that they deserve. Those community groups in Cherry Hill were able to diffuse potentially violent situations. We're able to intervene in potentially violent situations. And that's what this campaign would support more funding for those programs so that they can do their work. And that would substantially reduce the violence in the community. So if we have the life-saving services that our young people need, we can end this violence that exists in our community. Some of us have accepted it as the new normal, and I refuse to do so. Another thing that we need to do is have a peace summit among these rival gangs in our city to get them to the peace table to negotiate peace. If nations at war with one another can negotiate over peace, surely rival gangs and communities can negotiate over peace as well and bring peace to our neighborhoods. Measures like this have been taken in cities like Newark, New Jersey, and it's time that we have them here. The proposed legislation about providing life-saving services to at-risk youth, that's a program that was created in Oakland, California, that was successful in substantially reducing the violence. So I'm calling on brothers and sisters to donate to this campaign for a better Baltimore. I need your support. The last thing that I need to do in this campaign is to send out these mailers so that I can reach the voters. Right now, we're in an unusual situation. We have this pandemic going on that has highlighted all kinds of problems that exist in our community, which I'll talk about in a second. But because of that situation, we can't canvass door to door as usual. So we need to rely on mailers to reach the people. And I need your support to make this happen. If you have not donated, I encourage you to donate today. Donate whatever you're able to donate. Again, I need like $5,000 to send out these mailers, and I need your support, brothers and sisters. Donate whatever you can today so that we can make this happen, so that we can make a difference in this city. The link is in the description to this video, and I'll post the link again in the comments right now so that people can have it easily accessible. Click on that link and donate to the campaign. If you haven't donated to a political campaign before, now is the time. You know, we often talk about the need to hold politicians accountable. We talk about the need for progressive politics and all that kind of stuff, but we don't put our money where our mouth is. We don't, too often, we don't put our dollars behind those candidates that we support. And many of you know me. You know what I'm about. You know that all my life I've been about change. You know about my work with the NAACP as a civil rights attorney for going on 16 years. That is a history. That is a demonstrated commitment to the people. That is not some talking point that some of these candidates have. It is something that is manifest by years of work and commitment. Many of you know me from my years at Howard as a student activist, fighting to make a difference in this world, fighting to improve the lives of our people. You know about this. So I'm calling on brothers and sisters to donate today so that we can make a difference in our community. So another thing that my campaign is about is educating and empowering our youth. You know, I touched on some of that a little bit earlier. But again, I want to make sure that the Kirwan Commission's recommendations are fully funded and implemented. And one of the ways that we make that happen is by ensuring that nonprofits like Johns Hopkins pay their fair share. Johns Hopkins owns over $1 billion in real property in the city, but Baltimore City doesn't tax them because they're a nonprofit. If they were taxed, we would receive tens of millions of dollars in tax revenue from Johns Hopkins that would go into our schools. Also, Johns Hopkins and other nonprofits, they receive tens of millions of dollars in city services, but they give back very little in relative terms. It is time for the city to renegotiate its agreements with nonprofits such as Johns Hopkins so that we can bring millions more dollars into our schools to make a difference in our children's lives. My daughter, my oldest daughter, went to Baltimore City schools all her life. So this is something that is very important to me, you know, making sure that our children have a quality education. And thankfully, my daughter was able to get a quality education. And every single child in this city should be able to get a quality education. And the only way we do that is making sure that the Kirwan Commission's recommendations are fully funded and implemented. It makes no sense for our children not to have heat in the winter in their schools. It makes no sense for our children not to have air conditioning in the summertime in our schools. We've had situations where schools have been closed because of this kind of stuff. That has to end. That has to end. And that's what would end, you know, if I have anything to do with it. If I'm elected, I'm going to fight to ensure that the Kirwan Commission's recommendations are fully funded and implemented by making sure that these nonprofits and developers pay their fair share. And lastly, you know, this is something that I touched on earlier, is that my campaign is about ending these racial disparities that exist in our community. It's about time that we invest in communities that have been ignored. We need to invest in those communities. You know, communities that are neglected because of a legacy of racially restricted covenants, a legacy of city and state-sponsored segregation, a legacy of redlining, which continues today. It's time for those communities to be compensated. It's time for those communities to be invested in to deal with repairing the problems that are a part of that legacy, that are connected to that legacy of outright racism, structural, institutionalized racism. So I'm calling on brothers and sisters to donate to this campaign today. The link, again, is in the comments and also in the description box. Donate today. And I want to thank everyone who has donated to this campaign. I truly appreciate your support. You know, shout out to all my brothers and sisters from high school. Shout out to my brothers and sisters from Howard University. You know, my brothers and sisters from Black Neophores. Shout out to all my co-workers who have donated to this campaign. And to all my colleagues that have donated, you know, fellow attorneys that have donated. I truly appreciate your support. Again, you know, I need to raise at least $5,000 soon. You know, the election is June 2nd. It will be a mail-in election because of this coronavirus pandemic. So people are going to start voting even before June 2nd. So I need to get those mailers out as soon as possible, and I need your support to help make that happen. Donate today so that we can make a difference in this city, so that we can see a better Baltimore, a cleaner, safer city. So again, I'm calling on brothers and sisters to donate. The link is in the description box. And lastly, I want to encourage brothers and sisters to volunteer as well. You can volunteer from the comfort of your home. Make calls from the comfort of your home. If you are interested in volunteering, you can text me at 410-805-2685, or you can email me at ansonasaka@yahoo.com and let me know if you're interested, and I will send you the information that you need in order to participate in the phone banking effort. You know, I have to thank everyone who has volunteered. You know, again, I truly appreciate your support. Again, this campaign is not about me as an individual. It's about improving the lives of our people here in Baltimore. It's about making a difference. And, you know, the last thing I want to close on, you know, deal with before I close is this coronavirus situation. You know, this is a disaster. You know, it's impacting everything. You know, many people have lost their jobs because of this. Many people are sick because of this, and many people have died because of this virus. The last time I checked, it was over 50,000 people in the country that have died because of this virus. And I'm sure that it's probably, I think it's probably like 60,000 by now. 60,000 people that have died from this virus within a couple of months. And then over 1 million have been infected by this virus. And we see that according to all the data, this situation, just like many situations, is impacting the Black community disproportionately. Black people are disproportionately getting sick from this virus and disproportionately dying from this virus around the country. Not only, you know, in other states, but right here in Maryland, Black people are disproportionately dying from this virus. And that highlights the inequity that continues to exist, not only in Baltimore, but around this country. And we need to address that inequity. We need to. We need to have politicians that are unapologetic in addressing these disparities in the community. You know, politicians that aren't mealy-mouthed, that aren't punkified, that had the courage to speak about these very important issues. And I'm just that kind of person. You know, I'm not one of these candidates that has one message when I'm around white elites and then another message when I'm around Black people. My message is the same message. It's time for justice in the society, man. This inequity that we're seeing that's being highlighted by this coronavirus situation is something that has to be addressed. Inequity in healthcare. You know, you have many Black people, you have Black people going to hospitals seeking assistance because they have the symptoms and they're being turned away from they've been turned away from hospitals. And in some of those situations, they end up dying. You know, we have inadequate health care coverage and inadequate health care, period, in the Black community. We have Black people that are disproportionately dependent on public transportation to get around. And because of that, they are exposed to this virus. They are exposed to the virus when they're on these buses, these crowded buses. They're exposed to the virus when they're at these crowded bus stops. They're exposed to the virus when they're on these subways. This situation is disproportionately impacting Black communities. Also, Black people are in these quote unquote essential jobs where they have to go out. They don't have the luxury of working from home. So because of that, they're in situations where they're exposed to this virus. You know, whether they're working in a grocery store or they're working in some other store, or they're your police officers and your nurses. So they're more exposed to this virus. And then you have the homeless population, you know, and they're trying to make efforts to assist the homeless here in Maryland. You know, they're trying to do some things, but we know that that population, unfortunately, is disproportionately Black. We know that a lot of our population are financially at risk. So because of that, they're more exposed to this virus. And it's time that we have politicians that are willing to do what is necessary to address those disparities. And I'm such a politician. I'm such a candidate. So again, I'm calling on brothers and sisters to support this campaign, to donate to this campaign today. Again, the link is in the comments and also in the description box of this video. Peace and blessings, everyone. Be safe out there and have a great day.